Hmm. Okay. So here we are, and I am speaking with beloved friend Camille Maurine, who I was reflecting earlier today, knowing I was going to speak to you. And I realized that I think I met you when I was 20, which would mean about 26 years ago. It's a long time. And yeah, because that's when I was at Continuum, and that's when I met you for moving theater, which was a body work you were offering even back then, which I know has continued to be part of your work in the world, along with you being a really incredible meditation teacher with your beloved Lorin Roche, but also a writer and author, really dynamic artist and dancer in your own right. And I'm just happy to see you right now.
I'm so happy to be with you. And oh my goodness, 26 years ago, gosh, time is strange, people.
Yeah. Yes.
And you were so distinctive because you were very young,
Yeah.
and and then the group had a quite a range of ages and experience, and you still have this very radiant, fresh face, and you were paying attention, and you were so into it. It was, and we just established a connection then that has been maintained all of these years through lots of life changes
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
world.
and my love of yoga started really young, but I will say that in terms of dance or movement, it was really I found it challenging because whenever I tried things like ballet, I thought it was pure torture. And when I got into belly dance when I was a teenager with my mom, I went, oh yeah, this I can get into this. But it wasn't until I got more into improvisational movement through my own degree at World Arts and Cultures, UCLA, which is where I was when I met you, and then found you at Continuum Studio with the work you were doing with really, as well as Gabrielle Roth's work at Five Rhythms, which I was also involved in. But all of that kind of improvisational work and recognizing embodiment practices through movement has been really important in me embracing being in a body and feeling more at peace and sensuous and comfortable in my unique, authentic expression of myself. And your work also really touched me deeply because I was aware of how powerfully archetypal type energies can move through when we open up big to what is possible energetically. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that a bit? Because I know that you have a background in Jungian psychology, and I know you have quite a scholar inside of you, not just a movement and dancer, but you're so dynamic. Can you talk about this?
yeah, of course. And I'd like to just give a little bit more background, and that is that I started way back dancing, becoming a professional modern dancer with all of those techniques that one learns, But in modern dance, I was able to uh, express energies that I didn't know were lurking inside of me. So that
Mm,
started to turn me off. And then
mm,
at the same time, pretty much the same time, particularly when I moved to New York to go to NYU School of the Arts in dance theater, I started meditating. This is the early 70s,
mhm,
and also doing yoga,
mhm,
about
mhm,
72. And so those three domains began to marry deeply inside of me.
mm,
And so studying, all of in that way, and then moving to Santa Fe and starting to develop my own work in 1975. I just love Santa Fe, the home of my bones. We live in Marina Del Rey, California, but I actually met Lauren in Santa Fe, and so there I began to realize the depths of healing, very, and trained in various modalities of healing
mhm,
myself, including, yes, the deep study of Jungian depth psychology, archetypal psychology,
mhm,
which is so profound for me and remains a part of my flesh.
mhm,
And then in the early 80s, I met, two things happened at the same time. I always wonder what was happening in the stars then. One is that in my movement explorations, well, first of all, in my movement explorations, I came upon Continuum and Emily Conrad.
Mhm.
And as soon as I experienced that work, I became deeply involved with that for, forever. And um, and at the same time, so that began that took me deeper into this understanding that was already happening in me, which was the marriage of dance and meditation. In other words, the flow of energy
Mhm.
that we are.
Mhm.
And then, Emily Conrad, her language is about we are. We don't do movement. We are movement.
Mhm. Mhm. It
That's
does us.
everything about us is, and my understanding of that just keeps deepening, 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 deepening. And then around the same time, I got together with Lorin in Santa Fe, and long story, I won't go into it, but I was doing a performance that was based on a solo retreat in the wilderness. It's Project Tibet. And Lorin was there, unbeknownst to me, during one of my rehearsals, teaching a meditation session. So we met, flash of light, and then eventually we got really together. So I say all of that because it's the background for whatever else we say here, you and I.
Right. And so Meditation Secrets for Women and Meditation 24/7 were co-written by you and Lorin. And I do know that he was compiling and doing his translations of the Radiant Sutras while you were together as well. And I know that that means your energy is in that as well in some ways.
Well, yes, 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 because it's that text, the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, the way that he has um, given language to this sensuous poetic language is very much the dance between Shiva and Shakti, divine masculine, divine feminine, you could say, but also consciousness, Shiva, and Shakti, energy and power, the currents of creation that are flowing through us. And so it's like, you rang, I'm here. It was very much that um, a way of framing what I was already experiencing, and that many people that reveal to themselves, oh, this is actually my experience. They resonate with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Meditation Secrets for Women was like a baby birth, that inseminated by Lorin.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book, and if anyone does not know this book, I highly recommend it for people. And it's not just suited for women. It's really, but it is about I would say it is. It is. It's very much for women. And I also know that men that I have given it to really love this book. So
Yes, and I do hear from men. I have gotten emails from men telling me how much they get out of it, and of course, people that we've been training or teaching meditation to over all these years.
mhm,
Absolutely, because there are some secrets about embodying one's energies,
mhm,
and which is that intimacy with the self,
mhm,
intimacy that starts here with our own hearts, you could say, and intimacy with nature, with the greater body of the cosmos,
mhm.
and then how that leads us into the possibility for deeper intimacy with another.
Yes.
And from 38 years of being together, I can tell you what a difference it makes. Just thank goodness
Yeah.
both of us have these practices.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's intense.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, and especially because, we live in a time where there's more people separating or divorcing than staying together. So it's more than ever, it feels like a powerful time to find divine marriage, to understand what that means. and recognize that with these inner, this work that's so beautiful for an entryway into that understanding.
Yeah. So then back to what you were asking about, the realm of archetypes, archetypal energies, uh, that these mythic energies live in us. They're part of the human psyche,
Mhm.
such as, there are all kinds of different ones. But if you think about your own inner parts, that all of us have, we're our experience has many different tonalities and many different roles that we play in the world, and many different emotions that come up, many different ways of relating to others and to the world, very different needs inside of us.
Mhm.
Um, for example, I feel like I have a part of me that lives on the top of a mountain,
Mhm.
and that kind of solitude and silence. I actually crave that kind of solitude and silence. And so that's a kind of archetype of, it's kind of a hermit archetype, but it's also like a priestess archetype, feeling like then offering something back to the world.
Mhm.
We just go on and on. There's the child, the inner child, which we all have.
Mhm.
And when we meditate, for sure, that inner child is going to show up. And sometimes through, different kinds of emotions and reactivity and profound feelings that were based on maybe an early history or whatever coming up to be healed. So,
Mhm.
so or the wild woman, goodness sakes, that was one, obviously a really crucial one. And it is the wild one, you know, for all of us, that part of us that's untamed, undomesticated, uh, that is part of nature and has a kind of that profound sense of freedom and uh, permission to be totally yourself and that kind of thing. And that can bring with it some intense energies and emotions. So
Sure.
the moving theater was a way of bringing a way of coming to meet the actual energy of these different movements that are going on inside of us.
Mhm.
How do I come to meet this? How do I give body to them? Because in giving body some kind of expression,
Mhm.
that we, first of all, we learn things that we can't just by thinking about them.
Mhm.
That by the actual embodiment, and this can happen in meditation very, very deeply, that we tune into, oh gosh, I'm feeling so vulnerable today. Ugh, I don't know what's going on. Oh, I just want to roar and growl. So if I go deeper into that and find ways of giving movement and sometimes language, but language that's not about, it's language arising from the energy itself, and it's always surprising. It always teaches us about what is it to integrate myself more fully, more holy in every sense of the spelling.
I
That's
heard you make a distinction that I felt was really important because rather than being the witness to it, I heard you say go into it. Yeah? Am I hearing this?
exactly,
And
yeah.
this is a very different approach than other things out there. That's why I wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. Yeah, good point. Very good point.
Mhm.
Yes, because the witnessing now it has a value
Mhm.
because sometimes we need a kind of clinical detachment
Mhm.
if things are too intense.
Right.
Sometimes we do need that, or some kind of cognitive understanding. Oh, I see. This is that and the other thing. But then there's the raw reality that's pulsating in us underneath that,
Mhm.
and so there are various ways we can come to meet that.
Mhm.
And but the quality of embodiment makes it real. And also when we tap into profound states of union or profound states of inspiration or profound states of love,
Mm-hmm.
feeling that communion, you
Mm-hmm.
know, or that sense that we would ordinarily label as something spiritual. To me, everything is spiritual. Ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but when we tap into those states, it has a body to it.
Mm-hmm.
The states, there's like I'm getting the Shakti shimmers even as I say that. There's currents, tingling, shimmering energies, because that it's what then we have it, we know it. It's not just a good idea.
Yeah.
We have so many um, assumptions about how I am supposed to be on a meditative or yoga or a spiritual path. Um, there are a lot of assumptions that are we have to peel through, and go deeper to find, well,
Mm-hmm.
what is this for myself?
Mm-hmm.
And that when we feel it in that embodied way, we have it. We're at home in ourselves, and that's profound.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's more life force, more flow when we find ways to be tender with ourselves, to melt the places that are frozen, that have been waiting. No shame, no blame. We all have them. Control patterns. And, coming to meet those and finding ways. Oh, I see. With a touch of love, the warm, tender touch of love comes to meet those tender places or wild, painful places, and melt into the body, into the body. I'll just go there. See you later.
When I met you, at the time when I met you, and I mentioned I was really deeply into actually my degree was in basically a lot of somatics and expression through different arts at UCLA. It was a very unique time where they had a program called World Arts and Cultures where you basically could get away with designing your curriculum. It's not like that now, but it was extraordinary. And one of the things I did was study a lot of theater and a lot of dance movement, but and and music. But with the theater part, there was a piece to it that led me to also go deep into theater, and studied at ACT in San Francisco. And my most the best part for me of what I learned at ACT, which I guess is part of um, ancient theater, actually, is Commedia dell'arte.
Oh,
Commedia dell'arte, right? And it's an embodiment of the different archetypes, and it's learning how to basically play these characters,
yeah.
embody these characters, so that they can come through without judgment, without resisting the impetus for spontaneous expression, and to really free yourself up, your own inner worlds. And it was very freeing for me. And I want to say that when I went into moving theater work with you, moving theater of the soul, I had a sense memory experience of moving through archetypes that took me through those kind of layers in a similar but different way. And it was very profound way back when I did with you. It's been so long, but it's really alive in me still. Remembering how it felt, how freeing it felt. And recognize, I grew up in a pretty unusual way. So I grew up around a lot of ritual and a lot of sacred feminine recognition and honoring of divine energies, and grew up believing in fairies and being told that where I'm born is where fairies exist for real, right? So this is not, for me, it was pretty normal to go into different states like this. But I have since learned as I've gotten older that it's not the norm for a lot of people. and
Oh.
and and I say this because I think anything in our culture that is inviting people to recognize that these freedoms are possible, and that these expressions are natural, and that we can explore them in a way that brings so much vitality and life awake within us. It's, to me, it's just where it's at. It's so important. And so I really wanted to appreciate you and your life's work, because I know that you have reminded and ignited a lot of people into understanding how important this is. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And yeah, what an upbringing you had. Yes, mine
Pretty
was
unusual.
the opposite.
Yours was the opposite. So you found it at a different time in your life.
Well, yeah, and then, the parental legacies and my mother's, uh, kind of tragic life and death. And, so I almost never, I don't remember to tell people about my theater background. It's so funny, but I did theater pretty much throughout schooling. And I was actually at Second City in Chicago, which is an improv, you know,
Yeah.
at the same time that Bill Murray was, and John Belushi was a good, was his friend, and very sweet, and just that era. I didn't stay there because I discovered dance at the same time,
Mhm.
but I uh, consequently, when I did start dancing and these energies started coming forward. And over time, particularly through things like the meditation and movement, I could feel this legacy of my mother and my grandmother before her, and so I started creating one woman shows, and the first one was called Tiger Tiger, and it was where I became my mother, and whoa, transformation! I learned so much that I didn't know cognitively and could never know cognitively, and became her. And then I finished that, and my father died. So then did a piece called Losing It. It was about the father-daughter relationship, and all of it. Anyway, and since then, improvisational performances. I started getting uh, understanding the value of the spontaneous. I mean, I did Medea when I was 17.
Wow. Wow.
And I was cast in these intense, like, here I am. I had really long red hair, and I kind of looked angelic and kind of sweet and pure. And they would cast me in like the bitch characters. Now I know why, but I didn't at the time. But yeah, and I was apparently quite good at embodying Medea, who's it's a Greek tragedy, people. So
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, you got to have some depth in you to carry that off, especially at 17.
yeah, and then discovering uh, in my discussions with Lorin and our instinctive meditation approach that we developed together, and he was the first one who talked about instincts, to honor instincts in meditation. And so we started writing together, um, and then realizing that in the equation, like women, for one, were never included in the equation of the ancient lineages that as we understand them today.
At least how to understand them in the written context, especially, right? Because when
Yeah,
things were written, it was primarily through the male,
yeah,
the men. Yeah.
and but there are very few instances of knowing about the women who are
Right.
involved. Very, very, very few.
Yeah.
So, and then the contemporary woman, what is it to be in the 21st century for all of us? So it's that updating for this current moment with the wisdom, but also adapting to the circumstances of contemporary life, and also our personal, very individual engagements with the world.
Mhm.
It's a different world,
It is,
and
it's such a different world, and I know people are increasingly sensitive too about how they're even called, what they're called. There are many choices now with women of being known as a female, or being known as transgender female, or being known as trans feminine, or bigender. And there are so many ways to honor the feminine now in different forms.
true.
And I appreciate that we're all making these distinctions as a way, if it's about honoring and about clarifying uniqueness, then I am all for every way that we're doing this. And then we're all looking for ways, I think, also to integrate with technology in a way that's also honoring nature, right? Honoring nature, honoring technology, and finding the marriage there that works in a harmonious way somehow, right? So this is an interesting time to be alive. I reflect on it daily. Like, how much can my nervous system take being in front of a computer right now? Not as
Exactly.
much some days. And yet some days I can recognize that there's a nature with it that I'm experiencing that is somehow supportive also.
The nature of the technology. That's fascinating. Yes. Well, it's true. All of these magical electrons flying around and making connections, creating
Yeah,
creating sound,
frequency.
frequency. Interesting. Yeah.
It is, yeah, it is. It's a very interesting time. I'm also aware of the fact that with the younger generations, I think about my son who's 8 years old. They're so in tune with iPads now, and virtual reality is becoming so realistic. And I know it's going to become an increasing tool that people are using as we keep going forward. It's becoming so affordable that it's going to be. And there's more and more fear of people being around people with viruses and issues of many kinds that arise in our society. So I know things like virtual reality are going to become even more norm in households. And it makes me think about this a lot, about how we're attuning to nature and how do we find that connection. Perhaps it's not always the outside in. More and more, some of these meditative practices of inside out also are really important to be honing as these
Yeah.
changes evolve.
Yes, that's right. Because this nature here, this essential nature that is right here, and they're all just a myriad of sensory clues to this reality.
Yeah,
That's what we build on. Yeah, that's what we build on.
yeah.
Mm.
Interesting times.
It is, and one can only hope that it's a transformative time
Mhm.
that we're all involved in, but with the tremendous number of challenges.
Uh-huh.
And that's why even more they have these ways of soothing the nervous system, of being with what's going on in our hearts and our emotional reality, with staying related to one another. How do I stay related
Yes.
to another? And some of us are fortunate we have uh, bodies to touch and hold and actually be with. Um, Thought of that a lot this last year and a half or so. The people who do not have that, or maybe it's a furry friend, of some kind, or that our pets can be uh, fabulous intimate relationships in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
That need for touch, I'm concerned about that.
Me too. Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah. And so even remembering, to embrace ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just to bring this actual touch to our own self, our own face. Oh, what's it feel like when you do that? It's a, and immediately, as I'm doing this, and maybe you all are joining, there's a shift.
Yeah.
There's a shift. And then our practices can be, okay, I'm I'm in touch with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do I stay in touch with myself, even as I speak with you, even as I'm talking to people on the phone, even as I'm doing my, going through my emails, all of those things. That's an ongoing practice. I learn something all the time,
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Mm-hmm.
That and every day about relationship, every day about what it is to actually be in my essential nature, actually be my essential body,
Mm-hmm.
my essential nature.
I know that as you share more with people, more and more these days with people through what we can do online, what we can do in a global communal way, you sometimes have to spend more time on a computer. And I wonder if you have any suggestions for people that spend a lot of time on their computers and ways to just keep coming, simple little small ideas for how they reconnect the way you just described.
Yeah,
You described touch, and that was a really good one.
yes. And you can do it anytime, and even if you're with people, you can kind of just go like this. It's no big deal. Nobody thinks that you're doing anything special, but inside you are
Mm-hmm.
remembering. Yeah, so that is something to do often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Having a glass of water nearby,
Mm-hmm.
which I always, almost always remember to make it. I like to remember to make it a ritual. This is the water of life. This is an element that gives birth to life. This is the flow. This is the cleansing, nourishing flow which we need. So I'm here's to our flow. Yes, you all. Our flow. And receiving that, you know, that essential element, and reminding that everything about me is flow and everything around me is flow. And you are flow, and that's the flow of love. And ultimately, um, the eyeballs. I have, if I'm at the computer too many hours, I started, I'm very sensitive now to, oh, my eyes need a break. So, just visually, even looking off, like if you have a window and just looking outside, like right now, I'm looking at the wind caressing the bushes, the leaves are shimmering, so the palm tree fronds, they're kind of dry, are waving in the wind. There's a quality of the sunlight, taking that moment. But also, my goodness, um, I'm going to raise my super cool standing adjustable desk. Taking a moment, and even if you're like right inside of a project and you're still thinking about it, but oh my goodness, stretching, shaking things out, a little spine movement here and there. Oof. Deep breath, just even this amount of time, I can already feel the energizing and the like clearing. Mouth, letting the mouth, yeah, letting the exhalation flow through your mouth, and that releases energy. The jaw can hold so much tension,
Uh-huh.
and the eyeballs can hold, the whole everything can hold tension. But let's, if we're just focusing on the importance of, it's
Mm-hmm.
not about anything else. It's not about talking and making sense. It's not logical. So those sensory clues, just that felt really good to me. The sense of just getting some movement, getting a shift of attention, opening the senses for a moment, because we can get, mentally focused so much that we forget about, oh, I'm actually embodied. Here I am. Feeling
Is
the ground, feeling the earth,
yeah, feet on the ground.
feet on
Yes.
the ground, or taking a moment and lying down, just stretching on the floor, and then having some more water, and then going back to your to-dos. Yeah.
Given what you've worked with so many thousands of people very intimately over the years at this, many people, but also very intimately. And given the struggles and the pains that some people have shared, the challenges that some of them have shared, can you share what your hope or intention would be if you could synthesize that in some way? For what you would offer and you offer many gifts, but if you were to say, I intend this or would love this for you, anyone who's looking for these supportive practices to support them through challenging
Yeah,
times.
yeah. Well, we have started to speak more and more about intimacy,
Mm.
just as the big meaning of intimacy. And it does start here. I would, uh, to find those ways for yourself, your individual ways of coming home to your own self, of having that sense of intimacy with yourself, which is very, in its nature, liberating. Liberating us from um, imprints that are not helpful, ways of constricting and holding ourselves, which maybe helped us for a while, but now we're ready to shed. So that's always it's always in the underbelly, you could say, of what I am teaching,
Mm.
and what I have learned the hard, like with blood, sweat, and tears myself, because it was not how I grew up. Uh, that everything about us is love, and that coming home to love as an actual body,
Mm.
a body, that creation itself, the the universe, and the this earth, this precious planet, um, and our connection to nature. Even if we're in a city and there's a lot of cement around us, somewhere, get a little plant, and just remember the bigger picture. So that sense of that profound resting in essence, and those ways of coming to meet once again the tender places inside. There's an art to that, in fact,
Mhm.
and there's an art in liberating, liberate all of our energies, so that we can be in our true power, our essential power that is arising from within. It is not about proving anything in the world. It can help with that, let me say, but that it arises here, then it's your own. I am living in my own true self.
Thank you. It feels like a good place to maybe end today. And I want to thank you for taking the time and sharing the way
Thank
you
you, Tara. What a joy to be with you.
do. You too. You too. Thank you.
Thank you all for watching.
And if anyone wants to find Camille, they have a wonderful website for their teacher trainings, meditationtt.com, meditationtt.com. You can find her there. You can find her many places, but that's a good place to find her and to find the works of what they're offering in the world that are amazing trainings. I can definitely say I've spent beautiful time with you over the years, you and Lorin both. And then this last year with the online training, it's exquisite. It's really powerful and a wonderful way to share in community globally, anyone who wants to right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.